Welcome to Fearless Females, where ambition meets resilience. Meet your guide, Lorie Jones, owner of Fearless Financial Advisors. Join her and remarkable women executives as they uncover the triumphs and transformative moments shaping extraordinary careers. Ready to be fearless? Let the journey begin.
Good morning, Fearless Females. Thank you so much for joining us today. And if you don't mind, I really would appreciate it if you would go on, like, subscribe, and if you found a particular episode really helpful, maybe make comments and give me a 5-star rating on that episode. I'm trying to grow the listenership for Fearless Females, and I know that those things all make a difference in pushing it up so that more women can hear these stories. You guys know, these are incredible women. They just have really great experiences and rich life lessons. And I think that so many more people would find them valuable if they could hear them. But if I'm stuck down there in the low rankings and the low likes, then it doesn't push that up to the top so people will pay attention and listen. So if you don't mind, I would really appreciate it. I'm so grateful for all of you loyal listeners, and thank you so much for sharing this passion for these fearless females the way that I do. So today we're talking with Jackie, and the thing that really struck me the most about my conversation with her is when I asked, what is your best advice for women just kind of entering the path that you're already so successful on? And she said, I would say my best advice is that don't chase the shoulds. And we kind of unpacked that a little bit. And it's like, she says, all of the time you're getting these shoulds from people. This is the way you should do your career. This is what you should do with your life. You should have kids. You should blah, 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 blah. And she's like, sometimes it just isn't your story. It doesn't align with your values. It doesn't feel like you. And understanding what matters most to you, what your values are, and how that aligns with your purpose. And then pushing those shoulds out of your way and focusing in on not what you should do, but what you were meant to do, what you were put here to do. And I love that thought because, Jackie, as you'll hear through her story, kind of got caught up in the shoulds and ended up making some decisions that led to burnout and health crisis and so on and so forth. And I find it so fascinating. I find this in my line of work. Like as I am talking with clients, like everybody knows what you should do, how you should save, how you should spend. But sometimes that doesn't line up with the values that you hold. And when you're out of sync with your purpose in life, with your values, with your core beliefs, like it doesn't, all the shoulds in the world don't matter because you're not heading on the path that's right for you. And I'm really excited to kind of dig into that and unpack that. So let's get started.
Good morning, Fearless Females. So we are here today with Jacquelin Connelly. She is the founder and coach of Coaching That Belongs. And I'm so excited to hear your story and talk just a little bit about your journey. Jackie, thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Lorie. I really appreciate it. And excited for this conversation.
So my first question is always, I love books. I love reading. I love everything about it. What is your favorite?
This was a hard question for me to come up with an answer for, but I came to a book that comes up in a lot of my coaching conversations and I think has sat with me for a number of years just in terms of communicating with people and having those like really meaningful, deep conversations. So it's a book called Radical Candor by Kim Scott. And I guess the quick premise is that it or she promotes how to give most meaningful and effective feedback. I think so often we avoid feedback conversations or we dance around the bush. they're not clear. People aren't really understanding what we're asking or what we're telling because we don't want to hurt people's feelings. And probably a lot of other reasons also. So Kim talks about these 4 quadrants, and the quadrant that she feels like works best is the one she calls radical candor. So that's defined by both caring personally for the person that we're giving feedback to and challenging directly. So we can think of the opposite of that. We might not care for the person, and we might just verbal diarrhea out something that doesn't make any sense and doesn't have any thought behind it. And that's not going to get us anywhere. But if we can like really care for the person and also be very clear with our language, she kind of promotes that being the best way to do that. So I really like that book. I've come back to it a number of times.
Yeah, I like that idea. I think I've actually read that book. So, yay, this is the first time I don't have to put it in my stack that's sitting next to my bed, because I did appreciate the fact. And I think that kind of a premise or an idea behind that is clear is kind.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you want to make sure that you're clear in your language and your intent. And yes, care about the person, come from a place of caring, but also, we don't learn very much if all we hear all day long every day is, oh, you're great. You're doing great. No big nothing to change. Like, I know that can't be true. I have kids that tell me radically candor what I should do, right?
Yeah. Well, and this is, like our ability to grow and our ability to receive that feedback and take it less as a criticism and more as this person wants to see me be successful and grow and try new things, learn new things. Like, this is the beauty of a feedback conversation. Unfortunately, we have all been in those conversations, I would imagine, where that feedback isn't provided with care. And so then we have the opposite result, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Jacquelin, tell me just a little bit about your journey. Like, how did you get started? Did you know young what you wanted to do? How did you go along your journey? How did you get where you are today? What do you do? That sort of thing.
Yeah, totally. No, I feel like I'm in my 3rd iteration of what I envisioned myself being when I was younger. I used to be a photographer, and I still think that creative thread kind of travels through my work even up until today. I really enjoy that piece. For me, I tell this story beginning at, I guess, my first professional part of my career. So I started out in human resources, and I stuck my hand up for everything. I thought this is what you should do in a corporate environment, and I wanted to learn all of the things. I was like, I don't care that my job description is this box. I will stick my hand up for everything, and I want to try and learn everything. And after 8 years, that did amazing things for my resume. It did very few amazing things for my physical and mental health. And so I reached that point of burnout. I know we hear that word a lot, and that can perhaps have a different definition from person to person. But for me, that looked like no longer living and working alongside my values. That looked like putting things that I had previously put at the top of my list as being very important to me much farther down the list and letting work overtake that, and not being surrounded by people that, I guess, wanted to see me grow and supported me. It was more in a toxic work environment, and how much more can you push out and how much later can you work and all of these things. So it took a while for me to really realize that. And so I changed organizations a couple of times, again, in trying to recognize that and find something different. And then out of the blue, when I was 42 years old, I had 2 strokes. And I say out of the blue because I was a very independent, healthy person, and I had no idea that anything like that could ever happen to me. And I went through all of the feelings and emotions, everything from why did this happen to me, to what right do I have to share my story or have this conversation with anyone because mine's really not that bad. So all of this kind of allowed me to reevaluate my values and what matters most to me, what are priorities in my life. And this led me to launching my current business, Coaching That Belongs, where I support other people to find their sense of belonging at work. And that gives me all of the joy every day when I get to do that for folks.
So as you were going along and you started this first career and said yes to everything, And then you said you worked at a couple more corporate jobs before you had this wake up call. Like, did you say yes to everything there too? Like, did you learn or?
Yeah, I did. I would say like in small bite-sized pieces, right? It wasn't for me until I had my strokes that was like a light switch being flipped. Before that, it was like, okay, that experience didn't feel good. I'm really going to pay attention to that next time and repeat. But for me, this medical event, it was like a light switch. It was like, oh, my life now needs to look different and I want it to look different.
And how did you change it to look different? Like what are some of the big things that you changed after that experience?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest one is probably quitting a very well-paid, very comfortable employed position that I think to a lot of people is a very scary decision to make, right? To go into entrepreneurship. I know a couple of folks said to me like, gosh, that's like jumping off a cliff without a life vest. And I'm like, yeah. And another perspective could be, making way for so many new opportunities. So I think that's probably like the biggest thing for me, the biggest step.
So you couldn't find a way to make that well-paying corporate job fit your values or change it to work for you. Is that right?
Yeah, and that's a good question. And it's not like I couldn't, but for me, it didn't even feel like an option. Like I was so strongly being pulled in this direction of coaching and supporting others and like doing it my way, right? Doing it, the decisions that I wanted to bring to a business, all of those things, me leading that felt so important to me. So yes, I could have stayed at that job and worked with all the people around me to make it fit, but I just didn't feel like I belonged there.
That's so interesting. Yeah, that was kind of what I was getting at is like, could you still have made that position work for you? You were being called another direction, but could another woman who had that experience, she could still have that success. She just might have to change the way she was doing things and reacting to things and stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think that it probably could maybe boil down to the question of like, what matters most to you? For me, it was leading things on my own, making my own decisions, that creativity that was so important to me. Like I needed to get out of that corporate box, for lack of a better word. For someone else, the safety and security of what that paycheck, et cetera, provided might have been more important. So I really appreciate that question. And that really could be different for everyone, for sure.
So, Jacquelin, what's the best investment you've made in yourself? Is there something you can kind of look back on your journey and be like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I did that. Like I really, truly wouldn't be where I'm at today without that.
Yeah. I think it's probably building on what we had just talked about, right? Paying attention, like looking inward, like paying attention to what really matters most inside of me. I think often, and I think what I did is I thought this is how you're supposed to show up, especially in HR. This is a field, a job where we often have to put ourselves farther down the list, right? The managers we support are the top of that list. The employees we support are the top of that list, the organizations. And it's a helping role. And so often we get pushed down the priority list there. And I think for me, I really paid attention to like what mattered most to me in those moments, in that moment. And for me, that was permission to slow down. It was permission to realize that working at that, 100% in 80-hour work week maybe did well for me in the beginning of my career, but was not sustainable for me, was not a place where I saw myself anymore. And so just like realizing that I needed calm, I needed peace, I needed a different way of life every day in my job. And like saying those words out loud to my boss, to my team, like that, I think for me took a lot of courage.
I like when you were talking just a little bit about your values, like your life wasn't aligning
Mm-hmm.
with your values. I find that so often in a lot of my clients where they'll come in and they'll say, these are the things that I value. But then you see exactly what you were doing. You see these 80-hour work weeks. Like, I value family, but I'm working 80 hours and not spending any time with my family. We're not going on vacations. I'm not spending my money congruent with what I value the most. And you find it a really uncomfortable place for them to live. And so that idea of like a values reset or a values realignment, so that you get your, in my case, I'm always looking at, so you get your money value aligned with your values. But in your case, it would be like your career values aligned with your values. So you're not living so far disconnected from what makes you happy and what is really at the core of you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you just said, I think is really valid, right? We can have our list of values. We can really connect with those words. And often something might happen in our day-to-day life, in our work week, or any kind of situation that might push up against that. And so, like, how can we be mindful and keep those values really top of mind? So then when that thing does come and push up against that, we can have the opportunity to kind of step back and be like, what's happening right now? Why do I feel a push in this conversation, in this decision, in this huge life situation that I need to move forward with? What is that push? And I think how we might practice mindfulness, how we might remind ourselves of those values, like things like that can maybe bring some awareness or some reminder in those situations. Because I think what you said, like, it's very true, right? Sometimes we get pushed up by this thing and we give into it and we don't really realize that, hey, this really is pushing up against my value of collaboration, for example. And then a week, a month, a year later, we're like, hang on a second, why do I feel so out of whack right now? And again, that's going to differ for everyone, how we kind of keep those things top of mind.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And it just, you put that idea of disconnect kind of in perspective for me and gave me a way to think about that. So I like that.
Yeah.
What, Jacquelin, what's the worst advice someone ever gave you? Can you ever think of some really bad advice? And like, did you take the advice? Did you not? I love this question. It's one of my favorites.
I also really like this question. For me, when I thought about it, it was the fake it till you make it. I can appreciate why that might resonate with someone. For me, that does not resonate at all. I feel like there's a lot of value in being courageous and being vulnerable to say, like, I don't know this thing right now, but I'm going to learn. Right? I often hear people use the word yet, right? I don't know this thing yet, but I can. I'm excited to learn. I'm excited to grow. For me, the fake it till you make it sounds like I am showing up in a space pretending that I want to be here, know how to be here, and I don't. And that gives me all of the like yuck feelings inside. So, yeah.
One of my values is authenticity. And so you will hear me say a lot of times, I don't know the answer to that, but I'm going to find out, because another one is problem solving, like digging deep and learning and that sort of thing. So I do go find out what your answer is. But I have noticed that I have really negative feelings towards someone who will fake it, who will just tell you that they know the answer, or they'll come up with an answer, or they'll use really, really big words so you don't understand that they don't know the answer.
Right.
They don't just say, hey, I don't know that yet. I love that idea. I don't know that yet, but I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
What about a situation that you've gone through kind of along your journey that you would do differently? You can look back and you'd say, gosh, I know things now. If I could redo that, I would do it differently. And this is how.
A few things came up for me when I was thinking about this question. And I think probably the largest one for me was being able to speak up when I felt like I saw something that was not respecting someone, was not leading with integrity. I think perhaps like a lot of us that may identify as female show up in the workplace with a lot of older men in those senior positions. And I think those conversations make it, at least for me, hard to speak up, perhaps with a different perspective, or sharing this does not feel like we're maybe considering all the options when we're making this decision. And I think early in my career, I did not speak up in any of those. I just went along. And a lot of them later felt like the wrong decision, even though perhaps I wasn't the main decision maker. But I think now it's having that language, it's having a little bit more confidence to speak up and say, what else could we be missing when we're considering this decision? Who else might we be missing in this conversation? And like I say, just, feeling confident to speak up and share in moments like that.
I've often wondered, because a lot of times you are kind of dismissed as a young person coming up through that. You make your mistakes and it's up and down and all that sort of thing. How would you see yourself speaking up? Like, what words would you use? How would you do that for a young person in that? Because a lot of times they are dismissed just out of hand. Like,
yeah, no, that's a good question. I mean, I always lean to open-ended questions that might evoke some additional thought from someone else. Like, we could go into those by being very, again, if we're going back to Kim Scott's book, right, being very direct and coming at it more from a critique perspective, which might not get what you're after from the person you're in this conversation with. But if we can ask open-ended questions, if we can, maybe even say things like I just said a moment ago, what else might we be missing in this conversation? What else could we be considering? Or what about problem A that we addressed last week? How could that inform this decision that we're making now? I think those conversations or those types of questions allow people to reflect for a moment and maybe step into it as more of a collaborative nature rather than I'm hitting you hard with, I don't think this is a good decision.
I like that idea. Not accusatory, but it gives you them room to explain, and maybe, during that explanation, they might come up with other things I hadn't thought of, or, hey, that's a good point. Yeah, I like that idea. Asking, and that probably translates really well even to today. Like, I'm on the, I'm not that young newbie in my profession anymore. I'm here, but it's still, when you have something that you see it differently than other people, asking a lot of open-ended questions is a really good way to get on the same page too. Don't you think?
Well, yeah. And you will probably, and you've probably experienced this also, you'll probably learn more about that person in the process, right? You will learn where they're coming from in this conversation with that decision. You will learn maybe what matters to them when they're trying to make this decision. That might be a really hard one. You might even learn about like what their bias might be in not considering a different perspective if you ask an open-ended question. So I do think if we're working with people and we really want to seek to understand, these open-ended questions can be a great place to not only learn about the topic we're discussing, but the person that we're having a conversation with.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
What about if you could go back along your path and give yourself a great big high five for some financial decision that you made? What would that be?
Ooh, I would say probably buying real estate. I wouldn't say at an early point in my life, because that wasn't an option for me. But at the point that I did, it was helpful, and it has supported me moving on through my future financial decisions. Yeah.
I just learned, I was at a networking group the other day, and I just learned that the average age for first-time home buyers, and I can't remember what they said in Colorado or nationally, is between 38 and 42 years old. Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
Wow. I wonder, it would be interesting to see too. I'm sure there's stats out there like how that has shifted.
Yeah. Because, we bought our first home much younger than that with some help, but my kids are buying their first home younger than that. So financial preparedness, I guess. But
totally.
That's it. It does make a difference. It does make a difference through your whole life. Yeah. What scared you the most when you started your career, or when you started along your journey? And does it still scare you?
What scared me the most was feeling like I had to show up to every conversation and know the answers. Mm-hmm. I think especially in my HR career, there's a lot of areas where we may find and will find answers to employee issues, right? And feeling like I had to show up to every conversation, not knowing the conversation in advance. It's a manager going like, help, something has gone totally haywire. I really need your advice and your guidance on this. I don't know what the situation is. So I'll go into that meeting and I put so much pressure on myself, feeling like I had to have all of the answers right then and there. I didn't feel like I had the ability to say, like we said earlier, give me a moment, I'll go source that for you and I'll come back with the answer. Mm-hmm. And I think that put a lot of pressure on myself. I would go into those meetings feeling very nervous. And, I think recognizing that no one is going to have all of the answers all of the time, and being able to say to that person, this is what I feel really confident about, these 3 buckets of information over here, and these 2, I'm going to go research for you. And then I can bring you that information and we can make our decision moving forward. I just even look at that example right there. There's nothing wrong with that. And having the confidence to have that conversation with someone in that way, and how I might feel if someone said that to me, I'd be like, amazing, cool, I'll chat with you tomorrow then. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. So I feel like that brought me a lot of feelings of fear and scariness early on in my career.
It probably got a little bit better too as you started kind of learning those answers, so that you could pop some of them off at the top of your head, and there's fewer and fewer that you had to go back and research and learn.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And there's the big buckets of sources of information that we would need to know. Absolutely. And every employee situation is going to be a little bit different. There's going to be different pieces we have to navigate to put it all together to make the best decision moving forward. So I think all of this can still be present.
Mm-hmm. Did you face any unique challenges along the path because you were a woman?
I feel like as a woman, probably building on what we talked about a minute ago, often, and I'm glad to see that I feel like this is changing, but often folks in these leadership roles are often held by men. And as women, as younger women, I don't have children by choice, but I've observed folks women who do have children by choice coming back from maternity leave, leaving on a maternity leave. We get discounted, often not considered to be as in the know as in the conversation so much. And I feel like that does halt a lot of women's careers. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't feel like that is enough attention is paid to women in the workplace, because we do have that wonderful ability to leave and start a family and come back with just the knowledge, skills, and abilities that we have left with. We were talking about a maternity leave, a medical leave, like all of these things exist. And so I think, as women, I think those challenges still exist.
Yeah. And you see that quite a bit where they've taken time off to do, to have kids, to raise kids, to whatever, and they come back and sometimes discounted in the workplace, where it adds a richness, I think, a lot of times to their experience. Or, if you're taking, we do as women have a lot of caretaking roles. So it's not just taking care of kids, it's taking care of parents, it's taking care of significant others. Like we're pulled a lot of different directions. And how do you think it's changing? You said, I think this is changing. How do you think how do you see that?
And I say this without stats in front of me, but I do feel like the role of a woman in leadership positions is changing. I feel like we are seeing more women in those roles. And I do think that's bringing more awareness to what, as women, we can bring to all levels of roles in an organization. So I think, that's what I meant by I have hope that is changing. And I just think the diversity that can exist in that leadership team, in that organization, by having folks of different life experiences, different work experiences, all different experiences. Like you said, I think the richness is a great word. The richness that can bring to an organization, to decision making is really, really valuable.
Yeah. I like to see diverse boards, diverse C-suites, diverse, because then you're getting a lot of different opinions, not just all the same exact way of thinking. I love that, diversity. What is the thing, Jacquelin, that you are most proud of?
I feel like I am most proud of going through my medical experience and having that change my life as much as it did, and using that as, I would even say, more than in part, in whole, my purpose now. I'm able to draw on my lived experience combined with my work experience to support others. So like early in my healing journey, there was a time where I had not accepted what happened to me. I was very in that why did this happen stage. And it took me a while to get out of that. I feel like I could have sat in that stage for much, much longer. Mm-hmm. But I feel like I'm really proud that I was able to use that traumatic experience that I went through and use it to support others in the form of my business. So I think that's something that I'm most proud of.
Oh, that's amazing. And what a way to change kind of a hard thing into something that just really enriches your life and others' lives as well. Mm-hmm. Any advice for a young lady who's kind of just starting down this path to help her be successful like you?
I would say, and it's funny, like the practice of coaching that I provide isn't advice coaching. So I work with people to be their partner, to help them identify what matters most to them. And in that, we partner together to decide next steps, their journey, goals, all of that thing. So I say this, it has some advice in it, but I just want to qualify that in advance. But I would say the advice that I would give is don't chase the shoulds. So society around us, potentially a boss, maybe it's parents, maybe it's other things that are going to perhaps make you feel like you should do something. You should follow a specific path. You should get a specific job. You should have children, not have children, all of the things. I would say pay attention to those. They may be really relevant for you. The should may align with you. What I would say is like, just pay attention to them, because they may not. They may feel like they're coming from somewhere else, and they may not align with your values, what matters most to you. And if they don't, then what does that tell you? Maybe there's something deeper there that you want to be paying attention to.
Is there a trick for knowing? Like you say this should, don't feel like you have to do that or like that fits you. Like, but like, is there a trick for like, oh, they say I should do this, but I feel, like, how do you know not to do the shoulds?
Oh, I feel like, Lorie, that's like the $1 million question.
I know. Yeah. I wish you could answer it for me. I really hope you can.
I would say, and again, this is just my perspective. It's, and I've used this word a couple of times, so I hope it doesn't feel too repetitive, but it's understanding what matters most to you. It's understanding how you may align with your purpose, what your purpose is. And does the thing that it's coming at you that may feel like a should, does that match? Because it might not. And you know what? It might. But I think the shoulds often come from something external. Mm-hmm. That could be society, that could be another person, but they come from someone else's or something else's perspective, right? And so you have the ability to look at that and be like, okay, this is coming at me. Do I want this? Mm-hmm. And I think that's like a topic that I love working with my clients about so much, is like, where does your agency fit into that? You don't have to do all of the things that come at you, all of the things that people say, this is the great way to, make an amazing corporate career, or this is the great way to have an amazing family or life, or all the things. Those are external forces coming at you that you have agency to be like, does that align with me?
Yeah. Oh, that's so smart. That actually is a really, really good answer, Jacquelin. So I love the idea of kind of like evaluating it and seeing like this is what I'm being told. Is it true or not? I always tell my kids, a lot of times they'll find all sorts of crap on the internet and they'll come with me with this fact. And I'm like, what's your source? And so they always have to source it for me. And then we decide whether or not we believe it based on where it's sourced from or whether we might need more information. So that's kind of what you're telling me is all this information is coming towards me. We need to see if it fits our values, like where's the source and is it true for me or is it not true for me? I love that. That's so great.
I love that, Lorie. And like, if we think about that, and if I'm taking what you're saying, like maybe we are the source, right? Like all of these things coming at us, does it align with us? Perhaps we are the source. I don't know.
Like we're the end all be all of source information. And does it align? Is it good from the source? I like that. So that's cool. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today and for just sharing your journey and your story. I really appreciated it. If I have a young lady who wants to ask some questions or dig deeper into something you've said, how does she get in touch with you?
Oh, I appreciate that so much. So my website is www.coachingthatbelongs.com. And there's an opportunity there to book no cost 30-minute intro. And so that can be about whatever you want. That can be, I have questions, or I want to build on something that you said in that podcast, or I'm interested in coaching. I open my calendar up to people for those amazing conversations. So that's the best way.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for giving back. I find it so inspirational when I find women that are so willing to give back. So thank you very much for doing that. Thanks for your time today.
Thanks so much for having me, Lorie.